Mitch, what are Ash Handley's chances for Wednesday?
Yeah, good. It was tightening up last week. But yeah, scans have been relatively kind to us, and yeah, it feels all right this week. So yeah, we'll see. We've got some contingencies there. Jack Broadbent's obviously back in the squad. See how Ash pulls up after training, but at this moment in time, he feels really, really good and good to go.
You've got a few players, a few more players, haven't you, back in contention as well, all of which are incredibly valuable to the team. But just talk us through how big a boost it is to have Matt Pryor back available this week.
Well, obviously Matt's had a major presence for us this year. You know, the consistency. His performance is under pressure too. You know, when you're in tight contests and the game's on the line, you know, Matty can generally make the play. So he's a great presence for us. Could have played last week, but unfortunately COVID protocols as they are. So yeah, we've missed him, and we have sort of done it tough with his middles a bit. It takes a big chunk of game time out of us. And towards the end of last week, when Zane got sin-binned, we were about to sub Jared in his last sub, and we were like, if we get an injury when we're down to 12, we're down to 11, and we couldn't quite get Jared on energy-wise, and Matty, with his 50 to 60 minutes a game, does give us something that we shouldn't really take it for granted what he brings to our team. So yeah, he's back and a much welcome return. And obviously we got his goal kicker back after a 1-game ban. So last week we left it with Ash. His first one were a bit wobbly, second one in hell from the sideline after he'd done his groin. So yeah, to get that sort of consistency and quality of goal kicker back in Reece is a welcome return, and it means we can get middles playing in the middle.
It goes without saying it was an incredibly emotional evening occasion, wasn't it, last week? Have you spoken about maybe harnessing that emotion, and maybe also Rob's message of not giving in for the rest of this season?
Well, look, we've had a difficult season, really difficult, right from pre-season. As ability, it's been much publicised, James, but as ability to field the same spine, let alone halfbacks, it's been difficult. We've got some suspensions, some justified, some arguable, difficult at times for us. Obviously, the injuries that we've had to key players and key personnel have meant we've had a very disrupted, fragmented season. Lost some close games. Some of it rests on us too. I'm not out there throwing excuses out left, right, and centre. But our guys know we've got some massively important games coming up, and they're determined that for all the adversity we've got, that internally, we've never lost our spirit, and we've never sort of, I think lost the emotion. I think there's been times in the season when fatigue has played a part. 5 games in 15 days, 4 games in 14 days. I think that's taken its toll on us at times too. But we're still in there, and there's a lot to play for, and they're excited. And as I say, spirit, emotion is still very much a strong part of this squad. So yeah, we know we've got some tough games coming up, but some what are really excite us.
How challenging then is a trip to Wigan right now?
Well, challenging. It always is. You say for a long time, you could say it most years, really. Teams that finish above Wigan are generally doing all right. Grand finalists last year, and they've had some disruption too. But they're hanging in there, mate. They're sat a win above us. Not quite sure points percentage what that means to us. So in the context of where it can take both teams, I think it's a really big game. Defensively, they really aim up, and the numbers say this. They're well-connected defensive team. Work very hard for each other. Hard to break down. Make you work really hard for the tries, and they've got some quality players in the team that can win any game. Jackson Hastings, as we've said on many occasions, has got the ability to make people around him play really well and inspire his teammates. And whether he plays fullback or half, his combination with Liam Farrell. Jackson will touch the ball 2 to 3 times as much as the other halfback in the team. Liam Farrell can touch the ball 3, sometimes 4 times as much as the other back rower in his team. So, you know where a lot of the quality can come from. But having said that, they've got some real dangers. You know, I think Harry Smith could come up with some great plays. Fields he's just finding his feet there, but we know that he's got terrific speed. You know, he finds space really well. He's got a great pass on him. So when you look through the team, we know there's enough quality in there, despite missing the likes of Thomas Lulley and Bevan French and players like that. They've got that ability. You know, they've not found points to come. You know, the point scoring record isn't probably where they'd like it. They had a big blowout win against Lee, and then you know, there might be an argument that they haven't come up with as many points. But we know, you know, when you look at where they are in the season, they're still winning enough games to keep them fourth, James. And the fact that they're so hard to break down, you know you're going to have a contest. You'd be disappointed if you were going to Wigan thinking it's not going to be a contest, put it that way.
Absolutely. I have worked it out. You could move up to 5th if you win on Wednesday, which would be a big boost, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's not something we talked about or looking at. We game at a time. We have not targeted games, but we have sort of broke our season down into blocks a little bit, and feel we know where we need to be come the end of the season, regardless of who plays and who doesn't play, down to COVID, what our percentage might look like. So we're not really concerned about how the table moves up and down on a result. We just think the longer picture is, we know how many games we've played, we know how many we've got to play. We think there's a target for wins and losses that will hit a certain percentage, that looking at who's got everybody else to play, regardless of how the results go, we can take care of it ourselves. That's going to be a challenge, James. It means us having good form, you know, really good form and good results from here to the end of the year. But given the start we had to the year, that's the way it's got to be for us.
Yeah, because I've just noticed you out of the next 5 games, 4 of the teams are above you. So if you knock them off, you pull them a bit closer to you as well, don't you?
There's a lot of teams who have got to play each other around. You know, all have got to play OKR. Cass have got to play all and OKR. I think Wigan have got someone to play in there as well. But we just can't concern ourselves with that. Such is the, I guess, uncertainty around the season, be that COVID, injuries, suspension, games on, games off. We can't concern ourselves with that. We're just in a position that we feel if we take care of our own results, that'll be enough to get us in the playoffs.
Just a couple of final points from me. You have to go back to 2013, I think, for Leeds' last win at Wigan, when Zach Hardacre and Brad Singleton were part of the Leeds side, now part of the Wigan side, of course. It'd be nice to snap that run, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, I'm trying to think if I've been to Wigan as a Leeds coach. I'm not sure I have, James, to be quite honest. I can't, off the top of my head. I'm not sure that I would have taken the team to Wigan. I have in a friendly game at the start of last year, but I'm not sure. So that sort of history. Look, those two guys have played massive contributions to the Rhinos over the years in grand final wins and Challenge Cup wins. Both good players, both good guys. But again, that's a little bit, you know, the history of that is a little bit irrelevant to us, James. It's all about the here and now, mate.
Just finally, Tom Briscoe could make his 350th career appearance on Wednesday. Some milestone, isn't it? Just quantify his contribution to the side.
Not just to the side, but I think to the sport. He's one of the game's good guys. You know, rarely, never will you found Tommy in any sort of discipline issues, off the field issues. He's an absolute model professional. You know, I signed him on myself, James, and a bit of backstory to that. Obviously, he played for Featherstone Lions. And he played in a gun outfit at the time. Featherstone Lions and Blackbrook from St Helens were the 2 top under-16 teams, and a lot of those guys, you know, his Featherstone teammates contained blokes like Liam Watts, Joe Westerman, Keil Carlisle, that obviously went on to play some first grade, Jamie Cordin, some more guys in there too. Against the Blackbrook team, what had, I think, the likes of Gary Wheeler, Andy Dixon, those sort of guys in from St Helens. So Tommy actually didn't have any offers to turn professional. I think everybody were turning up and looking at the same guys. And I played rugby with Tommy's dad. who were a really good amateur footballer, looked after himself, strong, fit, and Tommy sort of flourished a little bit late, James, towards the back end of that year, and he started picking man of the matches up in big games and sort of flew under the radar a little bit. So we gave him a go in our academy at Hull. I think within 12 months, he played first grade. Within 18 months, he played first grade, played at Wembley, and we're on the verge of the Great Britain team. So I'd love to say that I saw that, but probably didn't. He ended up as a bit of an emergency winger. We thought he'd be a centre, perhaps moving into the back row. Such were his physical gifts. He's got the big backside and the big legs and really strong in the trunk. We felt he could end up maybe a centre that moved into the back row. But he ended up being this explosive, too hard to tackle at times winger. And when you couple that with a strong attitude, but a real strong-minded, composed kid under pressure in big games. He had some magnificent games for Hull FC in some real big games and achieved for them and made the international team, and has gone on and probably replicated at Leeds, not in the same way. When you're in a back line with Agar and Ryan Hall and Callum Watkins, I guess it's really easy to be overshadowed, but I think you can pay tribute to his longevity. 350 games. He's had some pretty big injuries in there too. I think his strike rate and record on tries without knowing it will be really good. And as I say, as a senior player in our club now, Tommy's quiet, but the old saying, when he speaks, it's worth listening to, and he's a guy never afraid to sort of have the hard word when it needs having. So yeah, he's had a wonderful career, and it's a significant milestone for him, and been a great journey for Tommy and his family, and he's got to play alongside his brother for a big chunk of that as well. So yeah, it's a pretty special career.
Well said.
And not over yet. He's reinventing himself as a centre, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, good stuff.
Not over yet. Well said. Good luck on Wednesday.
What do you think is the magic number percentage-wise? And you say you've sort of tentatively worked it out. What sort of win percentage do you think gets you into that 6?
I think between 55 and 60.
Right. So
my maths isn't that good, Aaron. My maths isn't that good. So while you're punching into your calculator there, where your forecasted wins loss, don't ask me how many wins that equates to. What are we on now? We're on about 52 now.
52 and a half you're on, yeah. So
52 and a half. We've got 5 games left.
So 3 or 4 wins, maybe.
Do your own sums on back of that. Yeah.
To get into the 6, given everything you've had to put with as a club this year and everything you've had to contend with, can you sort of place where that would rank in your coaching career, the sort of scale of getting Leeds into the 6, given what you've had to deal with?
Oh no, not really, because we've got high expectations of Stoke at the pre-season, and I said this. I think I said this last week. It's just not a regular season, Aaron. So I think you have to factor that in. That there's so much out of your control. I do think there's been things in our control that have been really good, and I also think there's been things in our control at times we could have done better. But yeah, we have had a lot of a lot of factors that have sort of determined where we are in the season. But no, I'm not really thought about that. We're just trying to get in, trying to get in the 6, and I guess give ourselves a shot, really, pal. Give ourselves a shot, and in 4 or 5 week time, we don't know what the picture and landscape will look like. I think that's the thing about this year. You've just got to hang in and try and get in there, and you never know at the time what it might look like.
I think from counting, I think you're on your 9th or 10th different half-back pairing this season with Louis and McClelland. How exciting as a coach is it to be able to put the same pairing out 2 weeks in a row?
Well, can we do that?
Well, can you do that?
We'll have to wait and see tomorrow, won't we? Can we do that? We'll have to wait and see. No, and I spoke about this before, really, Aaron. We've just got to a point where, as I think most clubs have, that adaptation is the key. Don't try and change too much. We can't. It's impossible. And I suppose that is the frustration you felt as a coach, is you like to get to a point where you can start adding things on and evolving yourself as a team, where we've obviously had to keep it very very close to what we think is our fundamentals as a team offensively, and that changes week on week whether we've got the ability to kick the ball through one player, two players, or three players. What our rotation looks like at 9. So yeah, we just have to adapt, mate, and not make it such a big deal for the players. You know, even going into games, sort of not knowing until warm up and not knowing until team or even game day that that's your team, and you might have some changes to that. So yeah, I forgot your initial question now.
Louis and McClellan's playing together for the second week.
So yeah, as I say, adaptation is the key, and you know, I guess having to play people out of position at times and just be flexible with it. You know, I've always said all along, and I do believe this is the silver lining out of our season will be the experience that the young guys have had, and hopefully when COVID goes away, that'll really reap dividends for us over the next season or two. But right for the here and now, mate, you know, we'll battle hard and we'll battle to the death to try and make these playoffs.
Cruz Leeming, I think, dropped in at half, didn't he, last week when Rob Louis went off. In a season when you've been without so many senior players, what can you say about sort of the contribution he's given you playing out of position sometimes at half-back, and seems like he's really kicked on watching from the stands?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Good question. I'd agree with that because that's been apparent to us. We think he has really emerged as a guy that's wanted to own some of this, and his ability, again, he's the guy that can often change position, because we've had Brad Dwyer at times, obviously coming off the bench, that we all know what Brad does for us. Cruz has been one guy that has had to adapt, and he's played half, he's played left side, he's played right side, he's moved in games, but he is a guy that I think his selection in the England squad at the start of the year for those training sessions, and then subsequently when he got picked for the All-Stars, you know, he can just feel that rep football. He knows there's some really good players in front of him, but he wants to challenge him. And we knew when we signed him, we were getting a very professional, very driven young player who is really, really keen to improve. And, you know, part of that improvement is, you know, not always what the coaches can give him, but him sort of grasping the nettle and taking charge of his own career a little bit. And the big challenge for Cruz was his good games were right up there, and sometimes the consistency, but we feel, you know, he's really gravitated into a player during this time when we have needed some leadership, because some of our senior guys like Luke and like Rob Louis have missed big chunks of the season. Cruz has really taken on that mantle, and we think he's thriving on the back of it. And it's nice that you guys are asking, because, you know, we've seen that internally. Just
finally from me, have you any update on Connie Hurrell? Is there a development with his future, or is it still up in the air?
No update, but you know, he's certainly not given us an answer yet on that he's going to be staying here. So yeah, it's just one of those, Aaron, wait and see. You know, the offers are out there. It's for Connie, I guess, to decide what best offer fits. You know, what offer sort of fits him best at this point in his career, from a, you know, I guess from a contract and a playing opportunity perspective. So we'll see, mate. I'm pretty confident that you know, it'll be resumed. We'll get a resolution, you know, pretty shortly.
Just one for me. You mentioned before about being unconcerned about what other teams do, given over the course of the rest of the season. How easy or otherwise is it for you to stay unconcerned by what others do?
Well, we can. You know, the fixture list is thick and fast, and you know, it's so dangerous, guys, to start. You know, I'm talking about blocks and us playing in little 4-game and 3-game blocks. But as soon as you start looking ahead and, you know, well, we know we'll get this one because they're below us in the league, and we know they'll beat those, you know, that just comes undone, mate. So it's just simply about focusing on, it's very boring for you guys to listen to this, but it is very much focusing on game for game. And again, guys, because, you know, because the preparation is as such, mate, and there's so many twists and turns in the season, and games can get cancelled. You know, games can get cancelled on staff having COVID, you know, at this moment in time. So, do you know what I'm saying here? You just can't guarantee who's going to play who when. So, just taking care of his own ends, mate. And if that means winning what we think we need to win and getting to that target, and it doesn't quite work off for us, and so be it. You know, we'll look at his own ends and think, you know, the start to the season, you know, really we needed that to be better for us to be where we are. But there's still a lot to play for. You know, I look at it and think from 4th down to 8th, really, is wide open. I think the top 3 spots are, you know, not far off being done. But I think from 4th down to 8th, there's an awful lot to play for in the season. Which, if we're honest, mate, given the trials and tribulations that the comp has had to put up with this year, I think that's a great spot to be in. That it's still so open. I think what we're all hoping is that everybody's fixtures get played, and there's no conjecture around, you know, parity of fixture list and games being off and all that. I think that's all we can hope for.
So we're not at the stage yet where you sat there with your calculator working out sums and everything.
No, not all, and that's never been the case. We'll just purely and simply aim to take care of his own ends, mate, and hope that, you know, we can control his own destiny in that.
Just wanted to ask a couple more on Tom Briscoe. You mentioned obviously all his personal qualities that he brings. How important is that, having someone like that around the camp as an influence, especially for when you've got a lot of young players coming through? In, like I say, when you've been doing it tough at times this year as well.
Yeah, I think again that is probably an unseen or unknown quality of Tommy's. You know, I know as a coach on a personal level, and I can go back to when I first come into the club, because obviously I've got a long-standing relationship with him. You know, you can ask Tommy questions and he'll give it to you straight, and he'll give it to you straight even if it might be a little bit unpalatable for you to hear, Mark, and not something that wants you to hear. You know, you will get a very honest opinion, even if it's one of those tough conversations where you don't like what's coming back the other way. But that's great. You know, in an environment like ours, it's good, mate, that you've got guys in your camp that you know will just tell you exactly how it is and give it to you straight. But at the same time, you know he's like that in the group too. And you know he's not a guy that will wear glib statements from players or people saying things for the sake of playing. You know, he's quite happy to bring it back to the conversations, and, you know, we're saying this, but what we're actually going to do about it. So he has been part of our senior players group. I'd say he's not an outwardly vocal leader as such, but he certainly leads by his actions and professionalism. And as I say, when the time comes, when you need to talk straight, Tommy will always give you a very straight and direct answer. But I think when you're a guy who lives his life like he does, and he's achieved what he's achieved in the game, I think he's earned that right, Mark, too. You know, and I think that does tie in with his personality and, you know, and his background a little bit. He's from a very good family, you know, very honest people that have brought the lads up in a great way. And Tommy's a guy that when he does finally hang up his boots, and I think that's a little bit away at the moment, I think Tommy's a guy that you could find a place for him in the game too. As you guys know, he's highly qualified. You know, he's spent his time wisely, educating himself to degree standard, and now he's furthering his education on with, what is he doing, a doctorate or PhD? Doctorate. He's doing a doctorate. So I think with that level of intelligence and professionalism and character, that he's not afraid to, you know, have conversations, I think there's a place for Tommy within the sport when he does finally call it a day from a playing perspective. But when he does that, Mark, I think one thing he will look back on, you know, the stats don't lie. Yeah. You know, sometimes you can get lucky with stats, but when you look at his stats, amount of games, tries scored, look at his highlights, real quality performance, look at his finals record, the amount of games he's played in, he's probably just been a bit unfortunate that during his career, a lot of his England games came very early on in his career, and there's been an emergence of, you know, we have had a glut of Rhinos had one wing spot sewn up for such a long time, and when you look at the quality wingers in front of him, you know, his England and Great Britain cap tally He's probably a bit unfortunate because of the quality of competition that he's had.
Yeah, and I guess as well, like I say, given that he was, as a youngster, he probably wasn't one who was being looked at by a lot of clubs. He's a great example for other players of, even if you are in that situation, of what you can go on and achieve in your career, isn't he?
Well, what you find with recruiters, Mark, recruiters are brilliant at going, yeah, I found him and he's not one of mine and all this. Now, I'd love to stick my hand up and say I envisaged Tommy Briscoe's career, but I didn't. I felt attitude-wise, physically, he was always going to be good. But did I see a guy that at 17, 18, 19 years old was going to start dominating like he did at first grade? No, not really. We had to get him out of high school. His principal at Park Lane College, at New College at Pontefract, where a lad called Julian Appleyard that's got an history in, his dad were an old chairman of Featherstone and Castleford. We had to ring Julian up to get him out of school to play. I think it was Warrington away, his first game when he was 17, and Peter Sharp was the coach. We had to get him out of school 2 or 3 times to get on a bus to get to Lancashire. So as can quite often be the case, adverse circumstances open a door, and he got an opportunity probably before we anticipated it. But again, his early performances at Hull FC back then in the academy, it really did make us sit up and take notice. Within a dozen games, going, maybe this kid's got actually a little bit more than we really thought he's got, and such were his power. Such was his power athlete. So moving into the second row, from an engine point of view, we're never really going to be an option for Tommy, and he actually found a place on the wing really early, and were quite reluctant to move back to centre at the time. But as I say, such were his strength and power and speed at the time, made him strong around the hips, made him a very difficult player to handle, and his impact probably in his first 50, 60 games were quite enormous, really. But you're right, yeah, he did absolutely get under the radar to start with as a sort of 15, 16, 17-year-old.
Briefly on from me on contracts, obviously you mentioned Connie. There's 1 or 2 that are out of contract at the end of this season. Have decisions been made on those yet? Is there a deadline for decisions to be made? Are people still playing?
Yeah. We sort of know where it all is, Pete. Obviously, we're waiting for a decision on Connie, but yeah, you look behind the scenes. We're pretty comfortable that we know where it's all at. We know probably, barring the last one who's sort of staying and who's not going to be staying. There's a couple of little ones I think we still got to do, but yeah, we're comfortable. We know which side at, and we know where we go from here. We're not sort of. There's a couple of either ors, if you like, Pete, but we're quite happy with the way our squad's shaping up and what we will and won't have to do left from here. Obviously, Pete, as a coach now, we have to respect that those things have to come out when they come out, if that makes sense. It's really not for me to reveal. Paperwork and stuff like that has to get done, and obviously there's different ends to tie up whatever the outcome. So it's I can't really come out and say too much now, but yeah, we know, we sort of know, apart from the other one, how the cards have fallen and where we're at.